Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and I'm also a dev editor, fashion designer, and game dev. This is Star Stable Month, and today I want to talk about the 3 tiers of MMOs using Star Stable Online as an example because it has a free-to-play section and a pay-to-play section. Star Stable's model is a free-to-play to level 5 or 6. They allow you to level up your character and access certain areas of the zoned map for free. This is Moorland, Nilmer's Highland, and Fort Pinta. Once you hit the free level cap, in order to progress in the story, or to buy horses, or do other things in the game, you need to either buy a subscription or pay a one-time lifetime fee. There is a lot of information out there about the different types of MMO players. The types of game players were started by Bartle in the 1990s and were later expanded upon by others to 8 and even 16 player types. But this video isn't about those player categories. No, this video is about the life cycle of an MMO player, their attitudes towards the game, and how they are treated by gaming companies, especially with the new wave of live services MMOs. There are 3 tiers: free player, new player, old player. In a well-made and well-balanced game, all 3 tiers of players are treated equally. In a healthy game environment, the gaming company wants all 3 tiers of players to be happy because this is the way they'll get the most money over the longest period of time. Game publishing companies have abandoned the long-term strategy in favor of the short term. Get as much money out of newer players as possible before abandoning the game entirely strategy. It's a combination of free-to-play and live services that has infested almost every genre. Tier 1, the starter tier, aka the free players. There's some common wisdom going around that you lose 1/1000th of your player base if your game is not free to play. In the olden days, players got a free taste of games by playing demos, which were small vertical slices of the game that showed you most of the aspects of the gameplay and hooked you into the story to encourage you to buy the full game. Now, entire games are touted as free, and gaming companies spend a lot of time catering their marketing and their game updates to hook new players to try their games. So, who is the free player? The free player is the one for which everything in the game is a shiny, new, first-time experience. It's most likely they either saw an ad or through a friend. They might not know anything about the game's history. They're excited about the game from the graphics to the story to the gameplay. Gaming companies, like Star Stable, lure these players in with 3 things: a sense of community, a fear of missing out, and a constant blitz of new things in order to make it appear like there is new content being added to the game. Free players will make up the bulk of your game, and Star Stable is no exception. Star Stable claims to be the #1 and fastest growing horse game in the world. They talk a lot about having 21 million subscribers and being around for 10 years. They tout up how much they actually listen to their community and how great their players are full of ideas. The biggest selling point is their weekly updates. Every week, something new is added to the game. All of this is to make the game look like it's active and flourishing. Don't you want to be part of this great community? During the 10th year festivities, they have really pushed hard into the narrative that no one said they could make a successful girl-oriented horse game and how the gaming community was wrong to ignore this mad idea. Totally leaving out the game community overall ignores Star Stable. I mean, you aren't going to see Star Stable focused on any of these hardcore gamer YouTubes like Cellular News or MMM Bytes or Young Yay. As of October 2021, Josh Drive Hayes still hasn't featured SSO in his Worst MMOs Ever series, and he did Horse Riding Tales. SSO constantly puts out these grand statements to lure in young people who don't know about the gaming industry or horse games overall that can't be fact-checked or proven. They're all there to make you feel good in the vaguest ways possible. This is to improve the free player's confidence in the game. Star Stable will then do a free Star Rider week, weekend, day, or give out codes so players who have never played the game before or used a prior free code can try the game out for a limited amount of time. They can go beyond Moorland and Fort Pinta and see all the horses they can buy and work as fast as they can towards completing the story between the reputation and time throttling. They can join in on a club doing activities at the riding arena or a trail ride and feel more of a part of the Star Stable community. It ends, they crave more. The player is well and truly hooked. The beginning 5 levels are chock full of intriguing story quests, and the game updates regularly so they don't think their money is going to go to waste. There's a large community, right? And they're number 1. Then Star Stable adds the bait, the trap, the limited time horses and events. Most of these events have a small subsection that free players can get in on with special event spots they can access, maybe races, and depending on event, they have a chance to get some, but not all, of the free gear. And there's never any guarantee about these events or horses coming back. If they want to have the full experience, have more than one horse, and be able to keep lots of clothes and, well, continue the story, they need to buy the game. It's the fear of missing out. If they don't have the game, how can they keep up with their friends? Oh my god, they need all the new tech and horses they're being shown constantly. And this game is a stable and steady game, right? It's not about to fail. They can't do any wrong. The honey to this trap is Star Stable runs deals every single weekend. And you don't know when these deals are going to return, if ever. They will run a double star coins weekend at least once a month, supposedly. Sometimes before releasing a new horse, but sometimes after. If they release new tech, they'll make up star coin bundles where you can buy star coins and get the tech. Or they'll run limited time offers of an on-sale Star Rider subscription and lifetime rider packages. Get it now, while you can, and hope your bank lets it go through if you aren't in Europe before the offer runs out. These are the players who, in a more robust MMO community, would be doing the first impression videos for their YouTube. They might be doing fan art, but new players as a whole, if they like the concept of fandom, are going to be dipping their toes into different fandom communities from YouTube to Facebook to Instagram to Tumblr, Discord, and even AO3. This game doesn't have a large fan presence on Twitter. In the Star Stable sphere, this is Star Stable approaching equestrians on YouTube and giving them a free account with a ton of star coins for them to run about in the game for a couple hours or more. This gives the game a sense of more legitimacy. Your favorite horse rider has tried Star Stable and, well, whether or not they liked it is up for debate. Now, because everything is new and shiny and game companies knows if they can get people to play the game, they can get people to put money into the game. So they can take out stuff and change stuff. Because for the new players, it doesn't change their experience. The new player doesn't care about old graphics or old storylines that no longer exist or changing lore. It's all shiny and sparkly to them. The younger they are, the more likely they don't even know about the older games and lore. They are marketing this game to 8-year-olds after all. SSO in particular has catered to this free-to-play player by making Moorland and Fort Pinta the shiniest and prettiest and most up-to-date areas in the game. They put in Ferdinand's Horse Market in this area, and Fort Pinta has a range of the new horse breeds that come into the game in order to flaunt in front of new players. If they buy the game, they can have so many choices and horses to buy. It is far more likely characters you meet early on, like the Soul Riders, James, and even Yidris, will be given character makeovers, aka glow-ups, over characters who have serious glitches, like Mr. Anderson, or incredibly bad stereotypes, like Courtney Summers, or even characters who are important to the story, like Elizabeth Sunbeam. Think about Gary Goldtooth. There is no logical reason why Gary Goldtooth was given a makeover. He comes in and out of the game periodically. At the same time, Gary is the one coming to Moorland with the limited time magical horses. So in order to keep making the front end of the game looking pretty, of course they had to redo Gary Goldtooth as a priority. This gives new players a false impression of how the entire game is going to look. They can't go into Dino Valley and see it's still on Generation 1 graphics, or South Earth with Generation 2 graphics mostly. They can't see the mixed styles of the Hollow Woods or the Mirror Marsh. They've got the most upgraded and polished portion of the game outside of Mistfall and the Wildwoods. So the free-to-play player goes and pays for the game one way or the other and enters the next stage. Tier 2, the middle tier, aka the new paying players. The game is still a shiny new experience for the Tier 2 player. They have the storyline to get through. There are lots of events. 1/3 of the updates are repeated events. The player will now become a die-hard fan and spend lots of times inside and outside of the game playing and talking about Star Stable. These are players who make Let's Plays for their YouTube channels. They'll do discussion of meta. They'll make fan art and write fan fiction. They'll participate in any Star Stable contest to get free items and merch. They have a lot of ideas. They'll be sharing these ideas on social media. Star Stable wants to keep a hold of these players for at least a year with their returning events with new tech and drops and vague promises of big things to come they don't want this player tier to miss out on. Yes, they continue the fear of missing out with the Tier 2 players. Now, as the player progresses through the content, the shine might start to come off. They'll still believe in Star Stable Entertainment and often go, "Give them time," and "They can't do anything wrong, trust them." They'll see room for improvement. If only Star Stable would listen to their players. And the new player, or their parent, might not realize until they've paid for the game that horses are microtransactions, real-life currency-only purchases. So they've bought this game, and then if they want another horse, they have to pay more money. Given the price can range between $50 to $80 depending on sales, this can really piss parents off to find out they might be spending another $30 on a digital horse. And because new horses come out monthly, their child who may not have patience and will want to keep up with her friends in the game horsewise will be asking for money upwards of $65 or more every month to get new horses. Tier 2 is where you start seeing the whales, the collectors who will spend lots of money to get everything, horse and tech, the week it comes out. Part of the way they'll drive engagement to their fan channels is by showing how they're buying the horses when they come out. They'll do wardrobe updates. They'll join a club and do videos of the club activities. Star Stable and games like Star Stable don't have to do much to keep these Tier 2 players. They are hooked. They're going to spend money as long as they have something to do, one way or the other, in the game. Star Stable will continue to put horses in because they know horses will keep the collectors and keep players thinking more is coming. Many of the updates, like Southhoof and Mistfall, were for lower level players like level 7 and level 12, pushing things like Cape West and Dino Valley off into level 16 or more, where the graphics aren't as nice. Front-loading the game with quests to keep the players invested early on into the as of yet unfinished story and make them think this has all been thought out. What, you thought them pushing back Cape West and Dino Valley was a coincidence? I'm amazed Elthoof and Jarlaheim are still roughly in the first 10 levels. Tier 2 is when Star Stable wants them to be on the servers for the longest amount of time. Live service games like Star Stable and games like World of Warcraft and Guild Wars and Black Desert Online pay attention to how long a player stays connected to the servers. How much time are they spending in the game? And this is part of their profitability metric. And the longer they can keep you in the game, the more likely it is you'll spend money on microtransactions to fund the game more. And Star Stable also really loves the narrative. They are a small indie company struggling against game industry to make a maverick game for an ignored market. And they need the horses they put out to make money to improve and fund the game. Yes, 170 plus employees, 44 million in profit, up from 26 million the previous year. We are really struggling here. So, in order to keep tier 2 players on the servers, instead of putting in story, which you can get to in 20 to 40 minutes every single time they do deign to put in story content, they put in grind. Things that will keep you in the game on the servers for hours at a time. The game opened with one type of grind, the stars. And since then, and most disturbingly in the past year, they've added upwards of 8 more types of grind. Soul riding, crafting with Farah, finding spiders, Catherine's memories, donkeys, recycling with Big Bonnie, warm winter rations, token. This is on top of daily quests and daily races they already had. It's a disgusting, easily programmed tactic to keep players playing. Grind hides you aren't actually progressing in the game at any consistent rate, and that is on purpose. This level is when and where Star Stable will recruit their ambassadors, and they're very careful to only recruit those who are really positive about the game. If you put up anything constructive or negative, you might as well forget being an ambassador, or working at Star Stable if you're old enough and have the right qualifications. The hardcore MMORPG or content creator would be doing how-to guides and making music videos and doing roleplays on their channels. There aren't a lot of how-to do things to do for Star Stable, so not 100% applicable. Star Stable does release their own music, so not only can you make fan videos to top 40 hits, you can make fan videos to Star Stable's own Miscreants, or Lisa Peterson, or DJ Kai, or Raptor. Does anyone remember Raptor? Without genuine, consistent content updates to the game to keep the Tier 2 players paying and playing, they become Tier 3 players. Tier 3, the final tier, the old and bored players. These are the players who have finished what I'd call the story content to a game, or the PvE content. Most MMOs include endgame PvP type content in dungeons and raids and battle arenas where you need high level characters and high level gear to be able to get to the top of the leaderboards or win against other groups of high level players for hours at a time. Then other MMOs go and put in things to undermine their PvE and PvP game like experience boosts and pay to win armor cosmetics. The only PvP content Star Stable has is group championships. Yes, ride in waves of players in a big race to win 100 shillings and a ribbon for your horse? There is also no story or level block on these championships, so a level 20 player, who has been there for years and has done multiple limited time event content with experience that gives them more levels than any new player can hope to get just by playing the game, can go up against a level 2 player. Not that getting level 2 is that difficult. The races are now avoiding obstacles and hitting the spacebar at the right time. There's no auto slow or endurance mechanic to make you pay too much attention. Tier 3 players are cynical. They have been around a year or more. Some have been around 16 years since Starshine Legacy, and they want the game to do better. They have expectations that are not met by reality. They know, potentially, SSE won't do better. The ones that tend to stick around are either hardcore players who have delved into the lore and played all the other games and are super invested in the story, or are whales, and the ones who are there to have the most pretty horses in the prettiest tack. They do videos like, "Is Star Stable still worth playing?" or "Why I quit Star Stable?" They are the ones reaching for content on their channel. The viewers choose my next horse. The viewers choose which horse I'm going to sell. I do your challenges. The Wheel of Fortune tells me to do. I spent 10,000 star coins on the shopping tip. They are bored out of their minds and get excited about the smallest things, like Reshade, using a third-party program to make SSO graphics look better. Yeah. The older, cynical players are also the ones who will talk the most constructively about the game because they've experienced all of it and probably other horse games besides. And they'll be reporting on anything they can find, like employee reviews from Glassdoor, or going over Trustpilot reviews, sometimes to mock them, sometimes not. They are the ones who will be organizing any strikes or movements in the community, because the Tier 2 players who are part of the community follow them and trust them. Now, how does an MMO company treat their old players? Well, they ignore them. They have had their money. The whales will keep giving them money as long as they keep putting out cosmetics, and they have no need to put out new story, upgrade mechanics, add onto the map, fix player characters and NPCs, or do anything that will remotely make the game a better experience overall for the late Tier 2 and all of Tier 3 players. We, because I count myself as a hardcore Tier 3 player, aren't important. Thus, we don't get story. We don't get codes like Starcoin codes geared towards us. We don't get clear, transparent answers on when updates are going to happen, because it doesn't matter when they're going to happen to Star Stable. We've either given them money or we've left and no more is coming from us. The irony being, because we Tier 3 players have been supporting them the longest, we are the ones with the biggest control over Star Stable's reputation. When it comes to a review, or if you're asking whether or not you should buy the game on, say, Reddit, who are you going to believe? A new player like yourself who is gushing about the game, or someone who has been playing for 5+ years and can tell you exactly how to spend the least amount of money to get the most amount of content out of the game? Because of the focus on the new player and use of microtransactions, Star Stable's reputation is tanking the more and more they push towards getting more subscribers, and the less and less they follow through on even their vague promises. Once a game is labeled as greedy and untrustworthy because they don't follow through on what they said they're going to do, or keep pushing it off and refuse to tell you when something that's hyped is actually coming with roadmaps and visual proof they're actually working on it, their brand, their reputation is gone. You might get the naive 8-year-olds, but you sure as hell aren't going to get their parents or keep them for more than a year. The collectors, the whales, are keeping this game afloat to the tune of 44 million in profit, and SSO responds by making more horses for them to collect, because that is where the money is, because that is where they've made the money be. Now, the most interesting thing about this is the Glassdoor reviews by former employees confirm this, but also former employees and current employees have answered questions in such a way to support that Star Stable uses the 3-tier method. For instance, former Game Master Layla answered a question on her Tumblr about why the quests in Epona haven't been updated, and pointed out given the complex way you get to Epona and how late it is, it's not a priority. When another game dev on Tumblr was asked if SSO had an endgame to the game plan, they said they didn't, and only planned to give closure to the storylines given. Here is the issue. You can't give closure to storylines without actually putting story into Epona and doing later game quests. If this isn't a priority, then your game is never going to end or get to any of the closure of these quests. A game without a planned ending can't have a planned middle, and so we've been stuck in the beginning for 10 years. A game is not a place to be pantsing a story. Pantsing is when you start a story without notes or outlines. You just have an idea, so you start it and keep going to the end. Pantsing, even more than planning, requires a great deal of editing. It can be done, but you can't edit a game in process. It's not recommended. Game development relies on planning. Make a plan, stick to the plan, deliver. There has even been rumors the game has been catering more to stockholders than players. What stockholders want, stockholders get. And if you look at their content designer ad on their site, you'll see you'll collect feedback from players and stockholders. Okay, now that's great on the surface. I mean, players have drowned them in feedback. Now think about who is in upper management going to try and keep happier. The players, who will leave at any time, or the stockholders, who they're beholden to make a profit and show progress every year. The stockholders are going to win every time as long as Star Stable is making money through the 3-tier method. Stockholders don't care about the game, they just care about the money. I'm sure you can apply this to other games you've played. Now, the whole concept of emotional hook, fear of missing out, and confidence is important. And if you're a regular watcher of my videos, I want you to remember it because we're going to go over it again in relation to Star Stable. Tier 1 players. New. Constantly blissed with ads, updates, deals, and positive, fluffy, meaningless PR without context. Playing in the prettiest part of the game with the most broad slice of what you can get if you actually buy it. Catered to with free codes. The bulk of a game company's time is spent marketing to free players. Tier 2 players. Paying players. Working the content. Creating most of your fandom works. Everything is still new. With lots of temporary microtransaction style content like horses to keep them playing and paying. Most quests are towards the beginning to keep them excited for the end that isn't there. Tier 3 players. The ones who've finished the game. The in-game players might be hardcore, tired, cynical, your community's thought leaders, ignored by the game company. This three-tier strategy is not a healthy or long-term way to make games. When everyone wants to be the next World of Warcraft or even Guild Wars, and then totally turn around and trash everything that made the original World of Warcraft or Guild Wars possible and profitable, then you have a lot of games failing either by going bankrupt and shutting down, or doing as Star Stable is and not actually finishing their PC game to make it a viable product. Free-to-play microtransactions are preying on the young and the neurodivergent and on the elderly to the tune of millions to billions of dollars every year. Somewhere, the concept of play to win and to have fun in a game was replaced with money and lots of tedious grind. It's gross, it's disgusting. I want it to stop. Maybe by knowing and understanding the three different tiers of game players, if you're a game dev, you can work out how to cater to all three of them rather than relying on only one of them to make your game look more successful than it actually is. Maybe we need to accept as game devs and as players, games need an ending. Much like this video. Thanks for watching, take care of yourselves, bless, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.